The reason it's a $60 billion industry, and probably even more than that now, is because it doesn't work. It's because we have to keep going back. It's because when we do the program and it works the first time and we're like, wow, this is the best diet program ever, I just need to keep this up forever. And then we inevitably can't because we're wired to backfire and to gain the weight back. And we blame it all on ourselves. And we think, oh, I just need to go do that program again because it worked so well. And so there's all of these repeat customers. And not only that, but then they'll jump and try another program, which is why they make so much money. It's because it doesn't work.
It is one of the biggest eating movements of the decade, the Whole 30.
New this morning, the keto diet versus Weight Watchers.
These cleansing diets aren't a diet at all. They don't even include food, so it's more like a fast.
Intermittent fasting.
The latest celebrity-endorsed health craze is known as the Detox.
The number one thing people ask me about is dieting.
So the first level of my understanding about body image was always like, oh, well, all these girls I see on TV are so thin and they're white and I'm not, and I don't look like them, so I want to look like them.
It really comes down to, like, I thought that if I could change my body, I could change my life, because all the messages that we receive are phrased like that. Like, if you look a certain way, especially if you're thin, or later on fit was the new trend. If you look this certain way, then you're going to have the man of your dreams, and you're going to travel the world, and then you're going to have the job that you like everything will just kind of fall into place. And that was very much what I was chasing, was that perfection.
I feel like I've always been on some kind of diet for trying to lose weight. And I remember every year going into like the new school year, that summer I'd be like, okay, time to lose weight. Like, I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to go into the next year and I'm going to look great.
After going to a baby shower and a photo was posted of me on social media, I was devastated by what I saw and devastated by the reality that was my body. And I decided to do something about it. I was going to get healthy. I was going to lose weight.
I've always been in a larger body, like even when I was younger. I have a cousin who's really close in age to me who was always much smaller than me. So there was always this thought that I needed to lose weight. It was hard to go shopping with her because we would go places that didn't really carry my sizes. So a lot of insecurities around my body started at a young age.
It all started for me when I was in high school. That's when I really started to question my self-worth. And for some reason, I tied my self-worth to my body. And that's when I decided that I would go on my first diet.
My journey started when I was 16 years old. And one day I woke up and thought, you know what? I think I'm going to lose some weight. I'm just going to try a little bit. I'll focus on what I'm eating a bit more. I'm going to move my body. I started by jumping on my mom's 80s style rebounder in the living room for 20 minutes a day. I vividly remember it. It's like such a beautiful, innocent beginning.
Diets tend to work in the beginning. We do tend to lose weight in the beginning, and we even do tend to maybe improve health in the beginning. But that is still, we're still not accounting for the long-term effects of that restriction in the beginning. So it looks like we can correlate dieting with improvement and weight loss and happiness, because usually we feel so excited and happy and proud of ourselves. We get all of these compliments. Life does seem to get better at the beginning of a diet.
Biologically, the end result of dieting is intentionally that your body tries to get you fatter. So we know that the methods that are currently being told to us don't work and often backfire. And it's a sad place right now where science is just so rooted in mistaken assumptions. And it's caused a lot of pain for people who feel judged and wrong for having larger bodies. And we have thinner people who live in fear of getting a larger body. And a lot of people are then stuck with all of these ideas about eating and exercise that are damaging to them and much more likely to result in eating disorders than a thinner body or better health.
Our bodies evolved to respond in very knowable ways to caloric restriction. That's the only reason we're here on the planet. When our ancestors were walking the tundra thousands of years ago, we had to develop parts of our brain that would very clearly respond to inadequate food. And so as soon as there was even a day or two of inadequate food intake, our subconscious brain goes, okay, our human is in trouble. We're gonna flip on a bunch of switches throughout the body to save our poor human from starvation. And we're gonna slow the metabolism by slowing the heart rate, cooling the hands, slowing the digestion, reducing energy, and a bunch of other things in order to preserve weight and save our human's life. However, the way that that plays out is that doctors recommend diets, which as far as your cave person brain thinks, is starvation. And so doctors unwittingly encourage people to enter a state of slow metabolism, food focus, and the likelihood of gaining more and more weight each time they come out of the fast or the starvation period, which has contributed to the way that weight is experienced on a population level in this country.
And I think what goes on in our culture is because we see so many of these before and after photos, people think that it's really, really possible or that I'm going to be different.
The Biggest Loser just wrapped up its 16th season, if you can believe it. The show drew in an average weekly viewership of 7 million people, but with its success comes controversy. Last year, the show's winner, Rachel Fredrickson, lost nearly 60% of her body weight on the program, winning the title only 105 pounds. Her dramatic transformation prompted the Twitter hashtag #StopBiggestLoser and calls for the show's cancellation. Now, more recently, a former contestant has made some troublesome claims about the series. Kai Hibbard opened up about her time on the show.
So I had these messages that like they were saving my life. They were saving my life every single day, which if I had had time to think and I had had time to sleep and I had time to eat, I probably would have been able to process the fact that bleeding through my shoes, having my hair fall out, having bruises literally under my eyes and all over my body probably isn't healthier than when I got there. So how could this be about my health and not about my appearance? But I like to think I'm a fairly articulate individual with a decent vocabulary, and I look out of my mind at that finale. I'm not coherent. I'm running back and forth across the stage. I am sticking my tongue out. I'm doing weird things with my hands. I hadn't eaten in days and I was dehydrated. And so clearly, like, I wasn't processing with all of my faculties, but boy, you know, it didn't matter if I could come up with a coherent sentence or even spell my own name. I looked great.
Like, you know, you step on that scale and you're like, oh, okay, wow, I've lost a lot of weight. Nothing changes. I think I thought glitter would fall from the sky or something, and suddenly I'd be like, oh, it's fine. Like, everything's great now. All the sadness I was feeling when I was that weight should be gone now.
I was a collegiate athlete, played soccer through college, and even then I was still stuck in these unhealthy behaviors. And my body would be yo-yoing. It depended on where I was in the cycle. If I was just binging, then I was gaining weight. If I was restricting, maybe I would lose it. But it was just a constant up and down process. But my mind never, ever found peace.
Mick Zazon is a health and fitness coach from Columbus, Ohio, but not too long ago, she says she suffered from 3 separate eating disorders.
She says her issues began when her decision to shed a few pounds became an obsession.
When I was struggling with binge eating disorder, it almost felt like an entire separate being was taking over my body and I could not control it. It was like this thing that was moving my hands and moving my legs to go to the refrigerator or go to the pantry in my roommate's food and grab things and feel so shameful about it and lie about it to my roommates, because how was I supposed to explain that? How was I supposed to explain that I crumbled up cookies so that I wouldn't eat them and I would throw them away in the trash can? But an hour later, I found the biggest chunk in the trash can and I dug it out and I ate it.
While I was in diet culture and looking what some would seem acceptable, I was also in active addiction. So I was smoking, I was drinking, I was doing other things. So we really get mixed up in what health looks like. Like, really, I was the most unhealthy I've ever been, but to people, I had a lighter body. Therefore, I was, hey, you look great. And so my exercise sometimes looked like me smoking on the way to the track, butting out my cigarette, doing a few laps, like a, super intense exercise, and then getting back in the car and going to work. So it was like, this is not a healthy practice. This is not a healthy relationship with exercise. But as long as I look acceptable, then everyone seems fine with it and I feel accepted.
Somewhere along the way, I had started tracking macros religiously. And so my body looked really strong and healthy, and I was strong and healthy actually, but I had this obsessive relationship with everything that I was eating. Like, if I ate anything that wasn't accounted for, it would really send me into a not good place. And so, what ended up happening is I wasn't enjoying life anymore, right? Like, going to restaurants stressed me out, hanging out with friends where I couldn't 100% control everything that I was eating stressed me out. And I was saying that I was doing this in the name of health, right? But I was the leanest I had been in my adult body. I was the strongest I'd ever been in my adult body. And somehow it still wasn't enough for me.
When I was 20 years old, I went to South Africa. I was modeling overseas, living in a house with 9 other models. It felt like a movie at the time. The life that our society tells us is going to make you the happiest. That's what I had. And I was miserable. All I thought about was food. I binged while I was there. I would go by myself into town and just go to a restaurant by myself. I'd eat a whole pizza and then I'd go get ice cream by myself. And then I'd eat all this food and then I'd go back to the model house like nothing happened.
People think that you just go to the gym 1 hour and yeah, that requires commitment too. But people think it's just that. They don't understand that outside of that 1 hour at the gym, which that's not what I was doing. I was doing many, many hours, all my free time at the gym. Aside from that, not only are you making your food and making sure that you're eating your diet meals, you're also spending every moment of every day thinking about it. And then I found myself on the floor next to my refrigerator, spooning ice cream and peanut butter. And it was even to a point where I started binge eating so badly that I couldn't afford my binge eating disorder anymore. So I would steal food from grocery stores just so I could binge on it. So it was a time of my life that was filled with a lot of shame.
I lost about 100 pounds within a span of about 1.5 years. So I became a bit of an internet sensation for the fact that I lost weight while being a mom at home without any proper programs or anything. Reality being that after all of that weight loss, losing 100 pounds, I still had that same shame and anxiety around my body, if not more than I ever had before.
So I started posting before and after photos all the time. So a lot of people coming to me like, wow, you look amazing. Your body's changed so much. And I think that was the hardest part of me in terms of starting my recovery, was because I was getting so much tension in terms of that before and after photo.
I was losing all this weight, doing the Whole30 and bringing my salad to lunch. And it was just all this positive, like what I perceived as positive, like, oh my gosh, girl, you look so tiny. Where did that waist come? All these little like compliments that you think are compliments. And they're like, you look great. You look amazing. Like, how much weight have you lost? And it was, gosh, it was, you just feed off of it and you're like, I can't go back. Like, I have to keep going. Like, I need to keep hearing these things.
Right now, whatever size body I'm in, it's not important other than how the world treats me for it. But this size body is due to my illness. When you tell me that I look good because of my size, you're complimenting my illness.
The only thing that can explain the pervasive nature of both medical provider and individual and population misbelief that thinner is better, or that thinner is attainable through dieting in the long term, is that there is a profound privilege given in our society to thin bodies. Thin privilege is so powerful in our society that physicians are mistaught, and they then bear powerful internalized self-stigma and other stigma regarding body size. And they continue to promote recommendations that do not work, oftentimes from a place of the provider themselves occupying thin privilege. They think, well, it's easy for me to just get up and eat some food and eat when I'm hungry and be satisfied and go about my life, and I'm thin. All of these other people are just not doing it right. And if they were to do it right, they'd get thin. And what I can tell you as an eating disorder internist is that that's bullshit.
The reason why the idea of loving your body just as it is so shocking is because we have heard hundreds, thousands, millions of messages to tell us the exact opposite, to tell us that having a smaller body means that you're healthy, you're happy, you're vibrant, you're worthy, you're sexy, you're more lovable, you're all of these incredible things. And then for someone to say, have you considered not trying to become thin? It's just like, what? Well, no, of course not.
When you look at the body of research that exists showing that dieting doesn't work and causes harm, the great majority of studies that look at weight loss, they're not conducted for a long enough period of time. It needs to be minimally 2 years, 5 years is better. And most don't measure for unintended consequences like binge eating, like eating disorder behaviors, and looking at the consequence of actually having more weight. In fact, there was a study done on twins. They looked at 2,000 pairs of twins, in other words, 4,000 people. And the researchers thought, well, maybe the reason we see dieting associated with weight gain is that it's a genetic predisposition. And they followed these twins around for 5 years. And what they found out is that dieting independent of genetics predicted weight gain in a dose-response manner, meaning the more that a twin dieted, the more likely the weight got higher. So the problem is that people have this belief that it works when actually it doesn't.
I did have a following at the time. I had about 70,000 followers, and I would meet somebody in the mall and they'd be like, oh, I'm like, sorry you're catching me right now. It's like, I just want to say, like, I've been working really hard. It's just been difficult, so I still have this weight. They were apologizing to me for their bodies. That's how they approached me, was I'm apologizing to you for how I look. And I was like, that's so bizarre. I would never ask that of you. But this was what I was instilling, is that this was almost a moral value on life, was to seek weight loss.
Pumping out that content felt authentic until I realized that my binge eating and body image was so bad. It just kept creeping up on me.
But one thing I like people to ask themselves is, what has your own experience shown you? With each and every diet or food plan, or by whatever name you want to call it, because diet culture is sneaky, what has been the experience of your body? What really happened? And not just of your body, but of your mind, your relationships, your socialization. And that's where some of your answer is, you know? And if the answer is, oh my gosh, I have more anxiety around eating, I have more anxiety around my body, I've got more rules, I'm constantly preoccupied with all of these issues, that's what the research also shows. But people don't brag about that on Instagram and social media.
When I was learning to love my body, I was very hesitant to go full in because I was like, because I was so fat phobic, I believed that loving my fat body meant that I would eat 27 hours a day. I would never leave my couch. I would never go to the doctor again.
We've been taught that we can't trust ourselves. We've been taught that eating a lot of food is the worst thing we can do. We've been taught that we have to micromanage everything we eat. And to even consider that we can trust our body sounds like some like woo-woo, dangerous, like spiritual psychobabble or something. It's just so foreign to us that we fear it, essentially. We don't believe that it's possible. But it's also nuts that we have gotten to a place where we don't trust our bodies, where we believe that this innate thing, appetite, has to be so tightly controlled. That is actually the thing that doesn't make any sense.
So the differences that I have seen, not only in my personal experience with fitness, but also after training thousands of women, is that if they are tethering their experience to a weight loss goal, it often means that they're viewing the fitness as either working or not working. And they're basing that judgment on what the scale is saying. So there are many, many reasons why you won't see a difference in the scale. So that is when people start to declare that this isn't working. So they dump all the benefits that fitness can bring to their lives because it's not working. And I've heard that from so many people. It's not working. And I said, well, what's your definition of working?
What I have found with many clients, including myself, is I always said, I want to change my body for health. And it wasn't until a therapist challenged me on, well, what does health mean for you? What does health look like? I didn't realize that in my mind, health meant being in a smaller body. And it wasn't until I unpacked that I realized that's not actually what health is at all. That you can be in a large body and be healthy. You can be in a small body and be unhealthy. And when you really get to the root of it, why would I make that connection, right? Why would I make the connection that being in a smaller body means that I'm healthier? And that's because society celebrates smaller bodies, whether or not those bodies are healthy. And this was the one area in my life that I feel like I failed. I could not get my body to be smaller. And I remember that grieving me. I remember thinking I would never be an after photo, that people would see my body as always a before photo, that people would assume my health habits just by looking at me.
We don't have control over all of the things that affect our health, but if we can take control of the pieces that will help our health, it's feeding your body adequately, giving yourself enough food, resting enough, having ways of soothing and stress management and fun and connection and moving your body in a way that you'll actually continue to move your body. All of these things will actually have a greater impact on our health than focusing on weight, which tends to backfire in a million ways anyway.
When I started my recovery, I realized that I was actually much healthier in a larger body, and I was recovered, and my body was, healing, and my skin was clearing up, and my hair was growing back in, and all of these things, like my metabolism was trying to get back to a good place, a healthy place. And so when I started to gain weight, I had, it was difficult, but there was also this side of me that's like, this is my body healing, and this is what my body needs. And I'm actually healthier in a larger body. I'm actually healthier in that quote unquote before photo than I am in the after photo.
We're so focused on arriving at this destination, which is healthy, and that doesn't exist. It's not black and white. It is not binary. You're not either healthy or unhealthy. It's a spectrum.
If I wasn't worried about the scale, what is going to keep me engaged in moving my body? What is going to keep me engaged in eating well? And I think, the reality is that as a person who's no longer focused on fat loss and weight loss, I still move my body on the regular. I still eat foods that feel good for me because I feel better when I do that.
Weirdly enough, almost everything you've ever been taught about the relationship between body size and health is wrong.
Now I have my two daughters, and I am so happy and relieved to be in this world of intuitive eating, because now it's something that I can pass on to them. And I know I can't protect them from everything, and they're definitely going to be exposed to diet culture, and I can only do so much. But it's something that they're going to see me practicing. They're going to see me practicing intuitive eating and speaking about food in a way that is neutral. I can be a model for them for how you can have a healthy relationship with food in your body.
I stopped obsessing about weight and about how my body looked. It's honestly been the most liberating and freeing thing that I've ever done in my life. I wrote about this a while back, and the fact that I took this amazing trip to Spain last year, and halfway through the trip, I recognized I hadn't thought about food. I hadn't thought about what I was eating. I was just present and enjoying the moment and creating memories with people. And I look back to a few years back when I was so obsessed on my weight, I couldn't enjoy those moments, right? I was worried about what I looked like. I was worried about, was I going to gain weight from the things I eat? I was never present.
I think I'm going to get emotional when I talk about this. When I entered recovery, it was so scary. However, it was the most in love with my body I have ever felt in my entire life. It was experiencing a type of love that I had never experienced or thought I would ever experience, but I was trying to get there through dieting. And I will always remember looking at myself in the mirror and genuinely just loving every inch of myself, because I was allowed to travel. I was eating things that I loved again. I wasn't bringing prepared food to restaurants. I wasn't freaking out going to restaurants, and I was actually laughing with my friends and my family and relearning how to be in those kinds of relationships again. And it was the best thing I have ever experienced in my life.
There's nothing wrong with you. There's just something set up in the way that we push down some people and uplift other people, and usually it's based on superficial reasons like how you look and how much money you have. And so do we really want to live in that kind of world is the question.
And so when I created this shift, now people come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I went to the beach this weekend, had the best time, totally was inspired by you, thank you so much. And I'm like, that was all you, hon. Like, hope you made some amazing memories. Like, thanks so much for sharing that with me.
In 2019, I started gaining weight just because, life. Now, we fast forward even now, and like with quarantine and COVID, I'm probably the same weight that my before picture, and I've never been happier. You don't hate yourself. Society teaches you that, and these weird standards teach you that, and sometimes even the people you love teach you that, which kind of sucks.
I wanted freedom, but I also wanted acceptance. And in my mind, those two things couldn't exist. They were mutually exclusive. That if I wanted to experience freedom in my body, I was going to have to sacrifice things. And what I realized is the thing I needed to sacrifice was people's acceptance.
Before I accepted my body, I always had this cloud over my head, this cloud of shame that I wasn't thin and I was therefore defective in some way. If I can just get thin, the cloud will go away. Well, even when I did lose weight and become straight size, the cloud was still there. And when I discovered that it was okay to be fat and worked on all of those fat phobic beliefs that I had, that cloud slowly lifted. And so from there, I have done incredible things, like I have a TEDx talk, I started my own business, I wrote a book, I have made videos of me dancing around in my bikini. They're like kind of the flashier things, but the day-to-day reality of my life is that I just don't have to spend any mental energy thinking that my body isn't okay. I just live.
We all think that weight loss will solve things, and sometimes we think it'll solve everything. Not only is it clear that it doesn't, but it's not even a possibility for most people.
The point of us sharing these stories is to show people that there's another way, a more enjoyable, sustainable, and ultimately healthier life. Diet culture stole so much from so many of us for so long, and it's time for that to stop.
If there's one thing we want you to walk away with, it is this. Pursuing weight loss isn't the answer to health, to happiness, or to feeling like you're enough. Because the truth is, you are enough, and you always have been.
It was really fucked up. My relationship with food was horrible. My relationship with my body was even, actually, I don't know which one was worse.
Can I swear, by the way? Okay.
I'm just into it, so I'm like, it's so much nicer to just listen to everyone else's interviews. Okay.